Welcome back to another episode of Brooklyn Nets franchise here on NBA 2K25. In this episode, we have the trade deadline, which is going to be a very interesting day. We're going to simulate these first three games of the month of February 1st. We play the Rockets twice and then the Wizards. We beat the Rockets the first time around. I'm sure there's going to be a trade that's going to pop up. Oh, the Pelicans want to give up a first-round pick. Their first-round pick in 2029 for Gary Harris. Let's be real here. Second game against the Rockets, we do lose. And the final game against the Wizards is also a loss. So we went on a hot streak there, beating Houston. Cam Thomas, another great night, leading us to the victory. This game, Cam Thomas a little less efficient, but still having an incredible year, averaging 25 points per game. Jalen Green, still not having that great of a year, but he stepped up the efficiency, and Houston has been doing okay. They're not as good as you would like them to be, but we split the games against them. Cam Thomas has a good night. Pretty inefficient game from a lot of the role players. And, the Wizards just were on fire. Corey Kispert, Malcolm Brogdon, Jordan Poole, all north of 20 points. And a lot of efficiency down the board, too. So first, we're going to look at the moves that we're going to make with our team, and then we'll look at some moves that we're going to make around the league. We're going to look in the trade finder first here. I just want to gauge the field. So what do we get for a guy like Ben Simmons? I'm going to gauge the market, and if we get any crazy good deals, I'm obviously going to turn them down. I do love this deal of Nikola Vucevic and their first. It just doesn't make any sense for them to do that. I think getting Marcus Smart and Brandon Clark is a negative for us, honestly, with what we're looking for, so I'm not going to really entertain that deal. Don't like that deal. Definitely don't like that deal. I think the trade market is broken. I don't understand how you can say that. I know that Lauri Markkanen is on expiring contract, but Ben Simmons in a second for Lauri Markkanen is insane value. I don't know who the Jazz think Ben Simmons is, but that is just not happening. Same thing with the Knicks here. What are you doing? I could definitely get down with the Cole Anthony contract. Not sure exactly how he is, but, he's just having such a good season for them. I feel like that's not the guy they want to give up to get Ben Simmons. Again, Ben Simmons on an expiring deal, are you really that desperate to get out of the Emmanuel Quickley contract? I'm not taking it off your hands. The Thunder willing to give up Hartenstein and Aaron Wiggins for Ben Simmons and Keon Johnson? Come on, let's be serious. Okay, I don't really like any of those offers for Ben Simmons, and honestly, I would definitely look to, keep him on the roster for the rest of the year. Schroeder's got to go, though. He just is too bad defensively. I definitely want to see what the offers are out there. At least play the field, So we can get expiring Bobby Portis, don't really care. We could get Jalen Smith, who is an interesting piece for sure. Good rebounder, good interior player for the Bulls. I just don't really see any reason why they would do that. Yeah, I know how to do a trade, 2K, thanks. Look at their point guard situation. They've got Lonzo Ball and Kobe White and Zach LaVine and Josh Giddey and Ayo Dosunmu. Why in the world would they do that trade? That just doesn't make any sense at all. Cavs would give up Strus. I don't know if that really makes sense. We would give up Shake Milton for Bones Highland and Terrence Mann. That's definitely an interesting trade. Hawks want him, and they would give us a pick and Cody Zeller. Not sure how I feel about that. Yeah, Herter's great. If the Kings want Dennis Schroeder, they can have him. Lakers will give us Max Christie. Yeah, he's been having a rough time. I don't know if I really want James Robinson Earl or any of those old guys. Isaiah Joe is cool, don't get it wrong, but I just don't know if we need that type of player on the roster. I'm not giving up a first for Naz Reid. I would, but they're not trading him, first of all. So let's come back to this deal here. Clearly, Bones Highland isn't in their plans. And then it's, Kevin Porter Jr., Gabe Vincent, and Norman Powell. So they could definitely use themselves Dennis Schroeder. I'd almost rather take Gabe Vincent off their hands just because I feel like he could play well for us. And then I would also want, they just don't have the picks. They do not have the picks at all. And then looking at the Hawks, who is an expendable player on this team? I think David Roddy could be a good piece if they want to, get comparative value. I'm going to see if I can't get the Lakers' first-round pick this year with David Roddy for Dennis Schroeder. They have a backup option, which they want picks from us, and I do not want that. I have second-round picks to give, so I will throw in 2 second-round picks, and they want now Trendon Watford and another second for Cody Zeller. So I will throw in more second-round picks. I do not value these at all. 2 more seconds, and then they want Keon Johnson, and they'll give me Cody Zeller. I think Keon Johnson has been so bad that, honestly, I'll do it. So it's Dennis Schroeder, Keon Johnson, 4 second-round picks for David Roddy, Cody Zeller, and the Lakers first this year. I'm absolutely going to do that. That's an absolutely amazing trade for us. I see that we don't have a ton of point guards. Ben Simmons is obviously going to have to be a point guard. We'll have him at backup small forward. Cam Thomas is going to be our backup point guard as well, or a backup point guard. Ben Simmons does go down in overall a ton, but I don't think he gets a ton different as a player. All right, that's how we're going to arrange things. We're going to have Simmons and Milton there, then Cam Thomas, whole bunch of small forwards, a lot of them backup shooting guard. And then we've got Cam Johnson, Dorian Finney-Smith, Watford, and then we have Claxton, Clowney, Day'Ron Sharpe, and Cody Zeller. I think we are actually going to make Clowney a power forward and then a backup center. Just now that we have Sharpe to be there, I feel like when we get rid of Dorian Finney-Smith, we'll have somebody to share minutes with Watford. Not to spoil the next move for us, but we are absolutely going to get rid of Dorian Finney-Smith. Yeah, there's going to be some interest for sure. Not trying to give up picks and not trying to get back a guy who kind of stinks. Herter could be interesting. Definitely need a backup scoring guard, and I don't mind giving up those seconds. So if I don't really see anything else that I like here, that is absolutely something that I'll look at as on the table. Yeah, not a lot of great moves, honestly. So I'm totally fine paying Kevin Herter that contract. He's younger. There's a lot more upside there. We'll have to give up a second, but that gives us a good backup shooting guard, somebody who can definitely come in and space the floor. Now they want Ben Simmons to come in off the bench. I just don't get it, man. Here's where it gets tricky. I want to see what we can get for Cam Johnson. I really want to just look. I don't know what it's going to be. So far, we get Nikola Vucevic, which I'm not interested in that. Not interested in James Harden back in Brooklyn at all. Not really wanting to give up Watford for that. I'm going to pass on Kobe Buffkin, honestly. These offers are not as good as I was expecting them to be. I guess Cam Johnson just doesn't have a ton of trade value. This is an interesting offer from the Blazers, but they just don't really need him. I'm just going to see teams that might potentially need that wing help. Honestly, Philly could use him. Do they have the picks is the question. We need some 2026 picks. We have, 5 in the first round here now on this upcoming draft. And then we have 3 in the next draft after 2026. 2 in 28, 3 in 2029. But we don't have any 2026 picks. So let's look at some teams here who have first round picks in 2026. Because that's really what we're looking for. Celtics pick in 2026. Interesting. I wonder if we could get unprotected picks in both this season and the next season. Who do they have that's making a lot of money? Because Cam Johnson's making $23 million. I mean, I don't think the money's going to work. I think that's going to be the major problem. Unless they're going to give us one of these guys, which, I mean, they're definitely not going to. I mean, we would just have to take on way too many people, so that's just not going to work out. Although the Grizzlies have picks, and these are kind of valuable. And who do they have around that 20 mil mark? I'm not really sure what puts us in the cap, but how does this work with Smart? It does with Smart. Okay. Obviously, they're not going to do this, but who needs like a guard? Philly does. And what do they have that they can throw into this? Okay, I've got a trade that at least financially works. This would send 2 first-round picks, Caleb Martin, Kenyon Martin Jr., and Kelly Oubre, our way. Which I don't know if we want those guys, but they would be upgrades theoretically in the rotation over Dariq Whitehead and Jalen Wilson. They give up 3 role players for Marcus Smart and some guys with some potential. We're going to have to just send Philly a whole bunch of stuff here. But I think Marcus Smart gives them a defensive guard that they need, and they do get some wing talent here. Obviously, Memphis giving up Marcus Smart and 2 firsts for Cam Johnson is a rough ask. They do not care. They do not like this trade at all. If we just ask for the 2026 first-round pick, they still do not like it. Yeah, I just don't really know if that's the way that we're going to get this to work here. That's just not working out here. Warriors 2026 unprotected pick could be interesting, especially because I have a pretty big trade in mind here. So we know Wiggins is on this contract. I think they would like to get out of that, send Wiggins our way. But honestly, I think Wiggins would be really good in Brooklyn. It would get us a player to replace him, but this would not be the move in total. I think this is where Brandon Ingram moves in the deal. So this is going to basically be the outline of the deal here. We're giving up Cam Johnson for Andrew Wiggins and this pick. And the Golden State Warriors are obviously giving up 2 firsts, 1 going to the Nets, 1 going to the Pelicans, in exchange for Brandon Ingram. And Brandon Ingram is being traded for Cam Johnson and a first from Golden State this year. And then we look at what the teams say. The Warriors are not cool with it, and the Pelicans think that they are a contender. So let's take out that, and let's just look at this deal with Andrew Wiggins for Cam Johnson and their first. They think that they're giving too much up with Andrew Wiggins. 3 second-round picks just can't get it done. I really like that pick. I just don't know who else we get that makes the money work. Although DeAnthony Melton makes the money work, and we could really use a combo guard, so if they really want Cam Johnson, I'm gonna try this and add the exception. And they just think that DeAnthony Melton is too much to ask for, I guess. We add the 3 second-round picks, and they just are not vibing with it. They just paid Moses Moody, so I don't feel like that's the place to go. I think we just have to accept that this is one that we're probably not going to pick up here. I'm sure the Thunder would be interested here. They've definitely got some guys who are making some money. Lou Dort is an interesting piece, as is Isaiah Joe. Aaron Wiggins, all these guys are super locked up. Not sure about Chet and Jalen Williams' futures, but I'm intrigued by Lou Dort, mainly just because he isn't shooting the ball super well, but we know what he does on the defensive end. He could offer us some good play there, but so could Isaiah Joe. Both of them are 25 years old. Both of them have mediocre potential, but I think this team needs, some growing up, and I think honestly, either Lou Dort or Isaiah Joe would be good pieces to this trade. Although the money doesn't work in those scenarios. They gave Isaiah Hartenstein a lot of money. Kenrich Williams, actually a channel legend, we could throw in the deal. If this is what we need to do to make the money work, it would be Cam Johnson, Jalen Wilson, and Dariq Whitehead for Ousmane Dieng, Kenrich Williams, Isaiah Joe, and their unprotected first. They do not like that, and they do not like the idea of giving up Ousmane Dieng, which is hilarious. I am going to add the final 3 second-round picks, and they just don't want to do it. All right, let's look at a different team. We could get our pick back for 2026 from the Rockets. Now, what do they have salary-wise to offer? Oh, we could take Dillon Brooks off their hands. Let's do that. He has a counter offer, which involves us giving up a first, which I don't want to do, and Zaire Williams, which I don't want to do. So clearly he likes Mr. Dillon Brooks. What about Steven Adams? That's a pretty big contract. You've also got Jock Landale and Jeff Green on some pretty big contracts. Like Jayshawn Tate here is on a contract. Jeff Green is old and on a contract. How does that trade look? 3 seconds. Cam Johnson to the Rockets with Jalen Wilson and Dariq Whitehead for some salary dump. And they agree. So now we have our own pick for the 2026 season. So if we do have a bad roster and we end up tanking, that's awesome. The Rockets, they get what they wanted here. They've got a lot of depth, but the wing depth, especially on their bench, isn't great. Another player that I was looking at, honestly, would be Jabari Smith. And now that they have Cam Johnson, this is definitely a guy that I want to try and target. I want to see what they value him, and they look at him very, very highly. Yeah, they have him at a 4-star value. Even though he's not having a great year, there's just zero chance we're going to get him. So once again, this is what the roster is looking like. We've got a lot of young pieces now. Roddy with Zaire Williams to develop. We've got Noah Clowney and Watford, as well as Jeff Green's old behind. And now we've got Nick Claxton and Steven Adams and Day'Ron Sharp and Cody Zeller. Definitely a little thin at the guard position. Hoping no injuries happened there. But yeah, no, it's going to be an interesting roster down the stretch here. We're going to try and run more of a double big. I think this rotation looks okay. Jeff Green needs to get out of the starting lineup, though. I feel like that's better balance for this. And our roster looks better as a whole. We also have accumulated some future draft picks. So now we're up to 5 on the year as we now have the Lakers pick. And they're in the middle. They could get in the lottery. They might end up in the playoffs. We'll have to see. None of these picks in particular are looking super valuable. We get our own pick back next year. We're definitely going to have some picks in 2027, some picks in 2028. We've got 2 firsts there. So we've got a lot of picks for the future. Not a ton that are going to be super duper valuable. But obviously, if we start to lose some games here, that could be, a possibility. So for our first blockbuster trade of the episode, Brandon Ingram is going to be heading to the Golden State Warriors. Official trade is Ingram and Alvarado for Melton and Wiggins, as well as unprotected picks, not this year, but the next 2 years afterwards. And that offer is going to go through with Golden State. The Pelicans obviously need some depth here. They're definitely going to have to move Melton to a point guard with the backup shooting guard. Need him to be a backup point. And then, they have DeJounte, who can also run point. Herb Jones. Now, Trey Murphy can get the shine as a starter. He plays better as a starter. They have Wiggins off the bench. They still have Zion. They want to keep Zion as a part of this roster and just gel maybe with some of the veteran talent. Could definitely still use a center, but for now they're rocking with Daniel Tice. They're trying to play the middle game, and now when you look at the future draft picks, there's at least something in 2026, and we know exactly why the Warriors would want to do this. You obviously have an interesting setup here now where Ingram and then Kuminga and Green, all trying to play off of one another, is going to be rough, but you needed to move on from Andrew Wiggins. That contract was rough, and I know you're bought in on Ingram for a lot of years as he did sign an extension, but that sign and trade just keeps him in Golden State for a while. All right, what do we think Ingram would wear, hypothetically? I feel like Ingram would wear number 11. I don't know. Let me know if we disagree with that. Obviously, you can't have 13 because that's Wilt's number. But yeah, I think we're going to have him. Actually, you know what? I don't know why. I feel like I can just see him wearing 33 instead of 13. But yeah, we're going to have Ingram in Golden State now. So hopefully Golden State can turn their season around. It's going to be an interesting move for sure to see how that stacks up things. Obviously, the Warriors now as buyers, having Brandon Ingram on the roster. They've got Podziemski and Kuminga and now Alvarado, Trayce Jackson-Davis. I mean, that right there is a solid 9-man rotation that can easily get you into championship contention. You've got all kinds of guys that you want to give minutes to. I mean, even Moses Moody and Kyle Anderson can sneak in. Another blockbuster deal here as Lauri Markkanen is going from the Jazz to the Lakers. Jazz are going to get D'Angelo Russell, Keldon Johnson, and a 2029 first-round pick. D'Lo is probably just going to expire and walk, but Keldon Johnson is definitely a piece that hasn't worked out in San Antonio. He's just not producing at the level that you want. Rui Hachimura definitely needs to be replaced. But Lauri Markkanen in LA is kind of their desperate attempt to stay competitive. The Spurs are giving up Keldon Johnson basically for Hachimura, who is a year older. We forget how young Hachimura is. Hopefully he can thrive in San Antonio, get him playing defense, and 2 second-round picks I feel like lightens the load there. And those trades go through. So this is a very interesting trade deadline. Looking first at the Jazz now. They've got Keontae George, but D'Angelo Russell gives them another option. Colin Sexton, Jordan Clarkson as well. They need young talent. They need the picks. But they need the wing players. Keldon Johnson's going to be an interesting piece in San Antonio. Pairing with Grant Williams, Taylor Hendricks. They've got John Collins and Walker Kessler. Hoping to develop Filipowski. From, LA's perspective, you would definitely have liked to see, them try and acquire a guard without, obviously saying LeBron is going to have to be the team's point guard. He goes down at overall. So you've got Hood Schifino and Braun as point guard options. Austin Reeves also as an option there. They've got an interesting lineup, not a ton of depth by any means, but the rotation isn't looking too bad. And then looking at it from the perspective of San Antonio, they've got good stuff going with Chris Paul in his last year in the NBA, Trey Jones successing, after that. Stephon Castle could definitely play that role. Devin Vassell thriving. Now we've got Rui Hachimura. Still have Harrison Barnes, Champagnie behind him. Sohan obviously is going to need to be upgraded on at some point. You look at a team now, LeBron, Austin Reeves, Markkanen, Vanderbilt, and Davis. That's got a lot of defensive potential. Again, the bench, question mark for sure. But you get rid of D'Lo, get him to a new home. Utah needs that type of playmaking and scoring for sure. They've been an atrocious team so far. Obviously, the Rockets switching things up a little bit and acquiring Cam Johnson. Love him as a wing on this team. And then, the Spurs now getting a six-man in Hachimura because Utah obviously gets Keldon Johnson. I just didn't feel like his production was where it needed to be. He's regressing as a player, and he's not a great three-point shooter like he was when he was averaging, 17. He gets that 22-point per game season, but he's just not that guy anymore. You need catch-and-shoot type of guys that know their role, and I think Hachimura fits right in with this Spurs culture. We'll see how those moves affect those teams. Obviously, we know the moves that we made. We obviously shipped Dennis Schroeder out of here. We acquire Steven Adams, which is always cool. Golden State getting Brandon Ingram is a big splash, and the Pelicans kind of trying to rebuild a little here. I don't know why they're still putting Trey Murphy on the bench and starting Andrew Wiggins, but we'll see how that trade goes. They definitely picked up some draft capital. Well, the Warriors kind of went all in. This is Steph's last shot to win a ring, so they might as well go all in on a guy who's in the prime of his career. And we'll have to see with Lauri Markkanen. I don't know how well or poorly this is going to go, but I do think that at the end of the day, you need that third star. I think Austin Reeves does an okay job, but his production is down this year. You wanted to get rid of D'Lo and start fresh. It just doesn't fit in with the culture. So you got rid of that asset. You sent him to, rot and the worst team in the league. But some teams didn't really come out of this as winners. OKC doesn't really do a whole lot. I was originally planning on playing this Hornets game. We're going to sim to it. That's the end of the trade deadline. No questions asked. We are not going to stop simulating. And now we're going to get to this game against Charlotte. This game is going to be played in the next episode. Brandon Miller, returning from an injury, he's having a great sophomore year. LaMelo Ball doing LaMelo Ball things, 2K numbers, but are actually kind of real-life accurate. Miles Bridges not shooting the three ball well, but, he's abusing the NBA inside. Trey Mann having a better stat line in real life, but still not too shabby in this game. So, they're not good, and we are actually kind of a middle-of-the-pack team. We did lose this game to Miami. That was mostly because Cam Thomas could not shoot the ball, nor could anyone. Zaire Williams went 3 of 12. Herter went 3 of 9. Wofford went 5 of 13. Clearly we are in tank mode. They didn't even have anything crazy. Terry Rozier, Jaime Jaquez, the whole shebang. Didn't really end up going anywhere. Obviously, Jimmy Butler doesn't get traded at the deadline. I was thinking about it, but I feel like he's probably going to take this player option. It's $52 million, so maybe he gets dealt next year. Sorry there was no comment of the day. I'm recording this pretty much right after the last episode, so I didn't get a chance to get any comments. But yeah, if you guys really did want those comment of the days, definitely keep leaving questions for me that you have in the replies. That's really all I've got for you. Sorry no game for this episode, but kind of got my hands full. I will see you all in the next one, and take care.